Buttercup was raised on a small farm. It's how the story of the Princess Bride begins. And it is to this pastoral, somewhat idyllic fairy tale setting that day one of our journey begins. Over the next 5 days we will visit a number of the stunning Peak District locations that provided much of the backdrop for the 1987 film version of William Goldman's The Princess Bride. Our journey will not only reveal much about the making of this cult film, but also much about the Peak District and some of the issues we face today. With the eradication of biodiversity and the escalating pollution of our rivers, we need the population to engage with these issues before it's too late. I believe cinema, both past and present, has the potential to help us to achieve this. Filmmakers are spoilt for choice when it comes to filming locations around the UK, but despite this fact, more often than not, all we see is a glorified version of London or a grimy portrayal of a northern town. We rarely see much of its more dramatic hinterland on screen. So join Gumbo and I in our quest to discover the Peak District, the Kingdom of Florin and the Princess Bride. We start our journey in the village of Birchover, and we head down this path in an easterly direction. Well, hopefully looking to find Robin Hood's Stride, and firstly though, Bradley Rocks, which is where one of the opening scenes of the movie was filmed. From Bradley Rocks we head south on a circular route, before heading northwards towards Robin Hood's Stride, and then westerly back towards our starting point of the Druids Inn at Birchover. The Princess Bride was a book first published in 1973, written by William Goldman, who also around that time wrote a screenplay for the film. Although the film never actually came out until 1987. It was in the hands of various production companies and directors. Francois Truffaut has been attached to it. Norman Jewison, he made the Thomas Crown Affair, Rollerball, to name just a couple, In the Heat of the Night. Robert Redford had even been attached to it at some point, but because the production companies, they either they went bust, or the one whose desk it was on left the job or something like that, the film was never made. So it wasn't until much later actually that William Goldman bought the screen rights back from the production company that bought them, and he said, well, if anybody's going to wreck this, it's going to be me rather than someone else, because it's certainly, he cited it, William Goldman, as being the favourite of all of his books that he'd written, and certainly wants some reference to it, the book, on his tombstone. Screenplay wise, of course, William Goldman is a bit of a legend anyway. He already was, certainly was by 1987. By that point he'd already written Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Marathon Man, all the president's men. So, you know, quite a track record as a screenwriter. So, with the script back in his hands, he set about building his team. And he got Norman Garwood on as his production designer. He was very famous as Monty Python's production designer, and had previously won an Oscar for Terry Gilliam's Brazil. The question is, who was going to direct it? So he started speaking with Rob Reiner, and Rob Reiner prior to that had only made 2 films, Spinal Tap and The Sure Thing. One a satirical comedy, one a romance, romantic comedy of sorts. And so, given the nature of the Princess Bride story, perhaps he was the perfect person for the job. So they started talking, and he came on board. Now, Rob Reiner is very much a people first, actor-centric director, so not so much of a technical director as the likes of Steven Spielberg or George Lucas. Just looking across there to Crackcliffe Rocks, I believe is the name of it, on the right, and then to the left you've got Robin Hood Stride, where we'll be visiting a little later. So yeah, it was really important that he got the right actors on board. The 2 lead roles of Gumbo, not Gumbo, but Wesley and Buttercup. First one, Wesley, he was the first to be cast, and that was Cary Elwes. So he'd first seen Cary Elwes in a couple of years earlier or so with a film of Lady Jane Grey, opposite Helena Bonham Carter. Ironically, or coincidentally I should say, filmed at Haddon Hall, which would be the seat of Florin Castle. Well, we're just going to go slightly. This footpath here leads us behind the Bradley Rocks farm, which is where the opening scene was filmed. Gumbo! And we're just going to take a closer look at the remnants of Bradley Rocks farm. So the role of Buttercup, princess of the story, there's around 500 different actresses, and Robin Wright, the girl that finally got the part, was one of the very last to audition. She'd been working on, I believe, Santa Barbara soap opera, so she was tied into that. But anyway, she was able to take the role, and they made a great team on screen. And their early scenes take place right here. So Wesley, of course, plays the farm boy, and they have their key phrase together, "As you wish," which we're introduced to here. And this is the farmhouse right here. Overgrown now, it's nothing but a shack, is it? And that's it. We'll just return to the footpath now. Having trespassed in a minor sort of way. I was just passing by now at the back of the barn. Right in front of us here then this looks like the wall that is in the shot of the sort of two of them over the landscape as they kiss. I think say farewell. So this wall here is actually in the right hand side of the shot. Still there. Almost looks like a fake sort of Hollywood set type wall, doesn't it? Obviously all this wasn't here, this was all grown up since 1987. Yeah, so looking across now to Crackcliff Rocks, which I believe is a hill fort of some kind, Iron Age perhaps. Anyway, to your left there you see Robin Hood's Stride, which is where we have the fight between Fezzik and Wesley. The Princess Bride, S. Morgan Sterne's classic tale of true love and adventure. The Good Parts version. That was the original title of the book, and of course it's kind of a book within a book, because the story starts with a little boy who's sick in his bedroom. His grandpa comes to read to him, and in the film those parts are played by Fred Savage as the little boy, and went on to star in the Wonder Years, or was that even before that? Around the same time anyway. I'm Peter Falk, the brilliant Peter Falk, Columbo as most people know him, and so he starts to read this book called The Princess Bride, this book that basically tells him that everything in life is about true love, and of course, you know, the little boy initially at least mocks that, but again, another lovely part of irony which runs throughout, you know, it's the mocking of the story that by the little boy that allows us to kind of delve in and take things a little more seriously. It's just one of the things that makes it so brilliant. Of course, as the story goes on, and you know, the little boy gets more into it and wants to know what happens, and eventually I believe even doesn't mind the kissing parts, which he initially wanted to skip over. It's said that of all the kinds of stories, fairy tales are the only kind that stay with us from birth till death. And William Goldman, in his Princess Bride story, took different parts of many fairy tales and wove them all into a single story. He's often referred to it as a fractured fairy tale. So we'll shortly be approaching Robin Hood's Stride. There are essentially two pinnacles. On a pinnacle I think it's called Inaccessible. The other pinnacle is called Weasel. Hear that, Gumbo? Weasel. Yeah. So it takes its name, Robin Hood's Stride, from, well, legend has it that Robin Hood took a big stride from one pinnacle to the other, and that's how it gets its name. But we're visiting it today because of its connection with the Princess Bride. So Robin Hood's Stride is where the fight between Fezzik and Wesley took place. And Fezzik, those of you might remember, was played by Andrei Roussimoff, Andre the Giant. He was a French wrestler who actually had his first acting role, I think, playing Bigfoot in an episode of the $6 Million Man. So anyhow, so there are lots of stories about Andre the Giant that one could recount. One interesting one I came across in my research for this was that his father, being French, his father was also French, and he was working as a labourer on in the countryside of France, and he was working on Samuel Beckett's Summer Home. Playwright, of course, Samuel Beckett. And waiting for Godot, all those things. So Samuel Beckett learns that Andre can't fit on the school bus because of his size. So he offers to drive him to school in his car. And that's what happened. So Samuel Beckett used to drive Andre the Giant to school. Apparently they used to talk about cricket because they both had a passion for cricket. So that's what we used to talk about. It was particularly popular in Japan, Andre. Apparently it's good luck in Japan to be touched by a giant. I don't know how many giants they have. So we're just walking along the road, just approaching now Robin Hood's Stride finally, and just gone by a number of cars that are obviously driven here to do the same thing. And I don't know, you can drive to these things and get out the car and have a look, walk around and get back in the car and go home, but to me it's just so much more, it feels like so much more of a discovery when you find it on foot than it does when you just drive to it. Was it T.S. Eliot that said it's not the destination, it's in the journey. There you go. Public footpath, Robin Hood Stride. So apparently William Goldman wrote the book for his two daughters, one of whom said they would like a book about a princess, and the other of whom said they would like a book about a bride. Princess Bride. I think this one on the west side is the weasel. There's a weasel hiding in the grass up here too. Where's this weasel? Is this weasel? What's this weasel doing? Come on, weasel. So yeah, legend has it that Robin Hood jumped from the one to the other, from one pinnacle to the other. And I see that rock up there, the one that Fezzik and Wesley I should say. Fezzik and Wesley were thrown up against that rock on the right. Came chasing up here, he did. Certainly very familiar to all the Princess Bride fans out there. These carvings on there, I think they probably put padding, actually some kind of fake rock padding on the rock itself, so that when Cary Elwes were thrown up against the rock it would soften the blow, as well as cover up that 1970 bit of graffiti. Heading back towards Birchover now. This rock formation on the left hand side here, which is known as Router Rocks, which is supposed to be like a series of caves and tunnels and alcoves and steps. It's like a giant playground, really, a natural playground. Yeah, so Router Rocks, you might think that it had some connection to the nearby stone circles at Stanton Moor, but apparently not. Apparently it was sort of crafted in the 19th century by a local parson by the name of Thomas Eyre, maybe to generate some revenue in terms of linking it to the prehistoric sites at Stanton Moor, such as Nine Ladies Stone Circle. But it's a big old area, perfect for kids to run around and play on the rocks and climb in the caves. Cheers. So that's walk one completed, 4 more to do, where we will learn more about the different locations from the film The Princess Bride, as well as some local history and legends and issues that the Peak District and our natural world faces in the 21st century. So we'll see you tomorrow.
Day 2 of our journey involves a slightly longer walk of around 5.5 miles down to the picturesque Lathkill Dale. We start off in a northwesterly direction through a series of fields and woodland before making our way eastwards and down into Lathkill Dale. And then finally returning south across the Derbyshire Dales back to our starting point.
Otherwise way ahead of me. So the location we're approaching now is the location used for the Battle of Wits scene, which is certainly one of I think the best scenes in the film, involving Vizzini, played by Wallace Shawn, Buttercup and Wesley. Lowmore Wood, 50th anniversary woodland, 1951 to 2001. There you go, the Peak District was designed as Britain's first national park in 1951. To celebrate its 50th anniversary, the Peak District National Park Authority purchased Lowmore Wood in 2001. See Lathkill Dale down there, which is where we're heading. We just negotiate these cows. Seem quite content. Do have to be careful with cows. I never used to really worry about them. I have had the odd encounter where they've got a bit overexcited, so beware. I think you just have to use your common sense. There you go, Lathkill Dale National Nature Reserve, one of the 5 dales that make up the Derbyshire Dales, 144 hectares. So this Battle of Wits scene takes place. So Vizzini holds Buttercup captive, having kidnapped her. It involves Vizzini and Wesley having this battle of wits with 2 goblets, one of which contains a fatal poison by the name of iocane powder. Deadly. A subtle anagram you might notice of an illegal drug, perhaps. It's a brilliantly played scene between the 2 male actors, and particularly by Wallace Shawn, and even more amazing when you hear the state of mind that Wallace Shawn was in at the time of filming the scene. Hello.
Hello. Thanks.
Steep old climb that is.
Thanks for telling me.
No doubt I'll have it at the other end. So Wallace Shawn, this was his first scene that he filmed for the movie. Not necessarily the first scene he was in, given the fact that they don't always shoot in sequence. In fact, rarely they do. But it was his first scene of filming, and it was his big scene really. So under a bit of pressure under normal circumstances. But it was made all the worse by the fact that for some reason his agent had told him that he was like third choice for the role or something, and that he was, you know, likely to be dropped if they could get one of these other two in. Now these other two were Danny DeVito as first choice and Richard Dreyfuss as second. And sure, you can imagine either of those two actors in this role and they'd have put their own indelible mark on it, but nevertheless Wallace Shawn made it his own, and you know, the rest is film history. It's surprising that he was, you know, so paranoid. I mean, he was very successful in his own right, particularly as a playwright. Oxford, Harvard educated. Most famous play being piece, or film actually, was My Dinner with Andre. No connection to the other Andre. So he was so paranoid in the filming of the scene that he kept getting his lines wrong, and which meant that Rob Reiner actually had to sit in on the scene and act it out with Cary Elwes, so that Wallace Shawn was able to, you know, get an idea of what he wanted to do. The funny thing about this scene, I remember when I first saw it as a child and afterwards, it always looks to me like it was filmed in the Mediterranean or something, like in Spain. I mean, it's quite green now because we've had a lot of rain this summer, but another time that would be parched, as I think it was in the movie, and it looks like an almost Mediterranean landscape. So it was surprising to me to learn that it had been filmed in the Peak District. Such drama before you've even brought an actor onto the set. Come on then. Might be a drink in this at the bottom of the hill for you. Hi there.
Hello.
Nice place.
It's beautiful. God's creation is marvellous.
We're just revisiting the set of The Princess Bride.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen that film?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Yeah, that was shot here. So you know that scene with the goblets where they're trying to poison one another? That's your backdrop.
Fantastic views here. You can just lose yourself in it, can't you?
Just there. Oozes drama, doesn't it?
It
It's
is.
amazing.
Yeah, you don't need to go to another country. We've got to here, haven't we?
You don't.
Have a lovely walk.
Yeah, you too.
Perfect place for a little break.
So the actual scene took place on the top side of the valley there, looking back down across to the rocks on the other side. Great to be here. Because, you know, we can say the specific coordinates and of exactly where the scene took place, but that's not really what this is all about. You know, it's about revisiting the locations, the vicinity of them, and, you know, celebrating the landscape as that film did. Some mallards there floating by. What is that? Oh, a beautiful bird. Blue tufted feather on the back. What is that? Tell you if we can get off we go. Oh, what's that? Some kind of duck. I was a bit worried that this path was going to be really muddy, but so far it's not too bad. Look at those limestone cliffs. So these limestone gorges, such as this one, are a feature of the southern aspect of the. Look at me talking about mud. I better keep my mouth shut. Anyway, yeah, a feature of this southern part of the park, the national park, which is known as the White Peak, the white limestone. One would assume. As the northern part of the park is called the Dark Peak because of its dark gritstone. More dramatic moorlands up there. Look at this. Perfect path for you, Gumbo. Sound of nature. The power of nature. There's no denying of the power of nature to make you feel better. Because you don't trip and kill yourself in the process. No, but seriously, it's been proven to improve one's mental health, and I know that even now there are NHS sort of sponsored well-being courses, places you can stay to, you know, help you engage with nature and teach you about like the right way of eating as well, and to improve your general well-being. So it's yet another reason to come outside. Look at that beautiful water. So clear. So clear. I can't tell you how clear it is. It's crystal clear, like the chalk streams, but this is limestone, so it's similar. So much wildlife. Bird on a rock down there. It's yellow. So this valley is called Lathkill Dale, and the term may have Scandinavian roots, from the Old Norse Lathkill. I don't know. However someone from Game of Thrones might say it. And it means narrow valley with a barn. So keep your eye out for a barn. Really beautiful though. And quiet. Look at that water. Just look how clear that water is. Well, you can eat your lunch and then you can have a swim. You're not supposed to swim after eating. I think you'll be alright. There's sheep up there on the edge of a cliff. It's like he's like right on the edge. If you can make him out. It's naturally shaping the land, the river, as it deposits silt along the way. A waterfall, or is it a weir? Ah, look, old millstones. So this must have been the site of an old mill, maybe for flour. Grind it between the two millstones. Weir over there. No working water wheel anymore. Probably made of iron and carted off during the Second World War for scrap. My favourite kind of gate. Your voices. Path goes that way. Bridge here. Let's see where this goes. Have a look. Some voices.
You know what I've all my rock climbing gear.
Hello.
I think that was a good idea we did.
Use some fussing on.
I have fussing devices. You descended back.
Ah. This must be James Bateman's house. It is James Bateman's house. So yes, and there's your hole, your mining hole. So originally this was constructed to hide this shaft, mining shaft. And then James Bateman, who was the agent for the mills in the area, lived here. Oh my gosh, you're allowed to actually go down there. A 12-metre shaft. I'm going to have a look. Gumbo, you stay here, you can't come. Go and have a little look. Oh, wow. Lathkill's underworld. Why a shaft beneath the house? I need a light down here to be able to read that. And I can't see anything down here, so you definitely can't. Who do you think I've gone? Out of the mine? Well, that was exciting. We weren't expecting that, were we? All the more reason to get out here. You never know what you might find. What's in here? Bed for the night. Fallen tree blocks our way. I think we can cope with this. So quiet. Peaceful. Well, I have to say this is right up there. This is one of the best walks I think I've ever done. Oh, what's this? Sinkhole. Keep out of that one, Gumbo. I'll see the end of you otherwise. A couple of pillars ahead. Perhaps that was the barn. Long valley with a barn. Lathkill. Oh, hello. What's this? Oh, go mate. Going in here. Ooga. Cave. See a couple of eyes staring back at me, so you go on and be the brave one, Gumbo. You see them too, huh? Come on. It's not a cave walk. So I think we're approaching the turning. where we cross over the valley now and start to make our way back. Come on.
Cover yourselves in glory and change the human story. For this much I know, you reap what you sow. You cover yourselves in glory and change the human story. For this much I know, you reap what you sow.
Efficiently.
I love, 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 I love.
He who wanders is not necessarily lost. J.R.R. Tolkien.